guys. How are you all? Thank you guys for being here. So I am looking forward to tonight. I'm about to bring Foxy up, but I just want to say hello and also explain quickly what we're going to do. We're actually going to do a series on this because we want to go in depth into particular cases, particular readings, and review those readings and stuff like that. Thank you, Stephanie. But today we're just going to kind of do more of a general conversation with bringing up certain points from that. I think that this is going to be really great. Foxy has a channel. Please go check it out if you haven't yet. I don't have Nightbot over here, so I will need the mods. If you don't care, please drop that. And it's in the description box, actually, so you guys can just pop the description box open and grab her channel from there. Hey Amber Lou, hey Carol, hey Crumb Crochet and Coffee, hey Lucia, Stephanie Bloppity Blah, hey Jamie Texas Chick, Nana Banana, Janet, hey Ava, JC Cutie Pie, my pointer lover. Let's see. Don't want to miss anybody. Hey Carol, Teacup Kraken, Lil Red, Jelly Baby, thank you guys for being here. MK, JE, Adrian. Here's that outfit I was showing you guys earlier. That oversized shirt. Remember, I was like, it's super oversized. It's so comfy. It's so cozy. But okay, let me go ahead and bring Foxy up. I'm excited for this. Hello, Foxy.
Hello. Here, I'll go on camera with you for a second.
Okay. I am so happy that you're here. How are you?
Me too. Well, I have this going on, so that's been kind of a challenge. Yeah. But otherwise, I'm on the mend. Things are going well. Yes. So thank you for asking. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. How are you doing? I know your live was amazing earlier.
Thank you. I'm pretty good. I'm excited for this. We've been planning this for a while, and we kept pushing it back, and now it's turned into this one live, and we're going to do a series now, which I think is exciting. So for anybody who doesn't know you, what do you do? Like, tell us about your channel a little bit.
Sure. Well, it's just a tarot channel. I do readings for people who, are new to subscribe. Well, actually, I started off with doing readings outside of my home, like during COVID or like over the phone kind of thing, for profit, extra money. But then I kind of felt sort of odd about charging people that didn't have money during COVID. So I started doing them for free. And at the time I was uploading tarot card, horoscopes per month, that sort of thing. And I was doing that for a while. And then I thought, wow, like after I was, kind of tuned into the whole true crime thing in August, of not last year, but the year before, I thought, wow, like I should go live and do my streaming too. And I knew some people in the community and they really encouraged it. And so I thought, okay, we'll do that. So what I do is I just basically read cards for people that come into the chat and participate and hang out. And it's super fun. Yeah.
I love it. I think that anybody who's been over there, if you haven't been, you have to come, because like on the weekend, she does these long lives and they're like several hours long, but it is such a peaceful feeling in there. There is so much love and kindness, and you can truly see how you bring comfort to so many people. It's really cool. I think that, people who do tarot, psychics, anything like that, they can bring a ton of comfort to people that are going through grief and stuff like that. So I think, I see a lot of that in there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a lot of that stems from a lot of experiences I've had personally over, the course of my life. And, so I can kind of maybe relate to a lot of things, a little bit of a lot of things, right? So when people come into the chat and they kind of are brave and share their story, I'm just like so touched because I understand sometimes of what people are saying. So I think there's a really nice connection there. And actually, I forget who coined it. It might have been Rena, but she coined it Tarot P, Taro PY, as a joke, because it was almost like a therapy session for all of us to just kind of be with one another, and we pull cards and so yeah, that's kind of what it became. But so yeah, I don't charge for the readings. Right now I'm looking at maybe memberships as being sort of maybe monetary, but for now, yeah, I just haven't, because it just felt wrong, but I'm trying to get around something to make it, sort of, in a sense down the road more beneficial for my time, because I do spend several hours and it kind of is a bit exhausting, but I love it so much. It's like I can't stop. It fills my heart. And I guess I was telling somebody earlier today, I said, I'll stop doing it when it doesn't make me happy anymore. And it still makes me really happy. So I I'll show up every weekend when you guys do. As long as you guys do, I'll be there.
I love that. Hey, Harlot. Hey, you guys coming in. Hey, Godsham. So, okay. Let me think here. How do
I can give you a little bit of background about maybe how I get to what I do, if you like.
Yes, I would love to hear that. And first, let me just say what I wanted to say, and it almost lost my mind. I understand doing them free because you feel bad. I think that's awesome and really sweet. But I also encourage you to, you don't have to charge a lot, just a little bit, especially if it takes so much time, it takes so much energy. And look, you could do like a couple free ones, or but if people want to jump the list or something like that, I just encourage you to do that and not feel bad about it. But yeah, go ahead and give me some background.
Well, I've kind of always, looking back, I know now it was different. I just thought everybody was like me. Like when I was younger, I used to have these really weird, strange dreams of things. And I used to keep notebooks when I was a little bit older, and then things started, becoming like really oddly familiar. I go back into the notebook and I'd be like, oh my God, not exactly, but like really familiar. And it really didn't kind of click with me until I had a friend who, I became very like instant with, and, I start hanging out with her on the weekends, and, her mom read, so she would do readings at her kitchen table, which is kind of and she was lovely. She passed away a year before COVID, and she died of Alzheimer's. Broke my heart, but she was a huge inspiration to me. And she used to sit me down, and she used to say, okay, when I'm doing my readings, I love you, but you have to leave my house and go down the road. She said, I'll make an antenna, and all of the things are going to you and not to the person I'm in front of, this. And I was like, oh, she's just crazy. Her daughter and I would joke, like, oh, it's just blah, 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 blah. But after realizing things, as an adult looking back, like, she's not the first person that said that to me. I went to a psychic once to get validation if I should even do this. And I didn't ask her for validation. I just had it, in the back of your mind when you go to somebody and you're skeptical, because I'm really skeptical, even of myself, right? So yeah, and like I don't ask, I just say whenever I just like this, something, nothing. And she had this like mat, and it had all the things, and she was sitting here, and she just took it and she swung it over to me, and I swear I still get chills when I talk about it, because it was just like, okay, we're starting off like this. This is big validation from the people that are on the other side, and the spirit and all the angels and stuff. So yeah, and I've always been a big believer of angels. My mother was, I was brought up a Christian, and she herself came from a German and Hungarian background, and my Hungarian grandfather was generational, like a gypsy, and their families travel and do, entertainment and acting and singing and dancing and acrobatics and whatever. And every so often there would be, big curse to everybody in the chat. Every so often there would be like a fortune teller, or a tarot reader or a palm reader, or, how it is like in the movies. It wasn't exactly like that, but, something similar. But my mother had the ability to see things, and my aunt used to always joke with us when we were little. Like, she would tell me and my mom, like, ESP telepathy, whenever the phone would ring, it would be us, and vice versa. Like, we knew when she was going to call. And I have that still with certain people who are really close with me. If I get a feeling, I call them and they're like, how did you know? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I know. I just know. And so I figured out that I have what's called an all-knowing, which is the claircognizance of the clairs. There's 4 clairs under psychic mediums, channeling, any type of mediumship, right? And I have actually a bit of all 4. The only thing I don't have is I don't have the ability of foresight in the way that psychics do. I cannot see the future. I cannot see the past, but I get glimpses of things, and I get feelings, and I get thoughts that pop into my brain. I get songs, I get colors, and I kind of have to work it out in a reading. And sometimes I'll write, because I picked that up from Judy, the automatic writing, because that's what she did. She didn't read tarot. She automatically wrote, like Tyler. What's that young man's name that he does the automatic reading? Just scribbles.
Yes, and Tyler, is it Tyler Henry?
Yes, Tyler Henry, that's his gig. And so, yeah, there's just a lot of different ways and different things. But for me, I I just, it's just me. Like, I don't really ever look at me as anything else but me. I don't like to label, especially in the true crime community, because as we're going to discuss today, it can get kind of tricky. So.
Well, that was going to be my next question was, so well, for one, I find it really interesting and fascinating. You've been like learning about this since you were young, because a lot of people don't get into it until maybe they're older, people that are interested in, reading tarot and stuff like that. Also having a family history of it is so interesting too. But how do you have, such a connection to that part of you, that intuitive side of you, and you do these readings for people that you know or don't know, and you're also at the same time true crime lover? Why did you choose not to make your channel about true crime? And
Okay.
why did you choose not to do true
Well,
crime?
there's a few things actually. So one of the things was, the channels that I followed and respected turned out to be the opposite of what they thought that I were. When you first come onto these YouTube streets and you're watching channels and you're jumping head in and you're not really, I forget what, anyway, you don't really remember. I don't really remember when this came up recently, but I was like, I really resonated with, because you don't know who these people are and you just trust them at face value. And then you're on a panel and because I was on a panel with a content creator that I will not name, but it wasn't pleasant after about 5 months. And then it was a clear cut goodbye, because it got crazy, and if you don't follow that narrative, certain channels that do that specific thing, it can be really heartbreaking, because you make a connection with this person, or the people on the channel and the people in the chat, and the people that are with you on the panel. And it's kind of really sad to kind of disconnect from it, but it's not healthy. And you have to choose not to belong to that. Right. So that was my big lesson in my first, kind of deep dive into true crime. And it was from the Kylie Rodney case, as you know, was incredibly crazy.
Mhm.
So I automatically was drawn to her immediately. It was after the Johnny Depp trial. And it was like I bounced around for a while, from one channel to Icamel to Zab Girl to Chronicles of Olivia, seen a little BHB. I'm not gonna lie, been there, done that, went to Dolly, did all the things, right? And I went up on panel and just spoke my little 2 cents and jumped off because I was awful nervous. And then that's how I met this other content creator. So it was a huge lesson for me. And when I started this channel, I thought, oh gosh, like I'd really like to do true crime. And I came out of all of that. But I know that there's a lot of work that goes into, I didn't want to have a channel that I was just like, oh, these are all my opinions. This is just conspiracy. Like you and Melissa, you keep it real. It's factual. It's factually based. And that is a lot of research and a lot of time that you guys take out of your personal day to be able to bring that to your subscribers. Right. And I just didn't have the capacity to do that then, and maybe not now, but maybe down the road. I don't know, but not right now. And the second thing was, oh gosh, I didn't know if I'd be able to keep myself objective from my thoughts on things, of the intuitive side of me, and separate that from true crime, because it's so hard. Like I've watched stuff and off camera, I'm like pulling cards and I'm like, I need answers. I've done the spirit box. It's just all the things and I'm I could never do. And then I'm watching these psychics that pop up often here and there and here and there. There was one during the Colorado case, and I was just like, wait, what? Like that's not what I got. So it's like this weird, like, what if I'm wrong? Like, what if they're wrong? And all these things started circulating. And I was just like, wow, like, I can't imagine. Oh, and this is the third part. When I was younger, and this is a big reason why I came, not a lot of people know this about me on this side of the tracks, but on the other side, sort of know a bit of my history in my actual true crime was when I was younger. I was about 6 years old. My parents divorced. My mother was very European, and she'd moved here from England. And so she really was only in Canada for like 2 or 3 years. And my parents divorced after my brother was born. And so, she somehow thought that if she traveled to a hotter place, then she'd be happier, and it was kind of against the law. I was on milk cartons. I was a missing child for 5 years.
God.
Yeah, I was a missing child for 5 years. I know people are thinking I'm crazy, but it's what it is. You can look it up. Just look up under child find Canada. It's in there from, I believe, 1983 to 9. I went missing in 83 and I was found in 87. And my mother was arrested for a DUI for third. At that time in the 80s, you got 3 chances. Now they just haul you off, which is the right thing to do. But back then, and so then she got into the system. And when she got into the system, because she went by her maiden name, and that's how they could never find us, because we kept moving every 3 months from one school to another. And that's what I think a lot of these missing kids, that's what happens when these parents take them from their other parent. So there's a lot of triggering moments for me in true crime that it's kind of like I wasn't abused by my mom, like how these kids are, like, she wasn't the best mother. Like sometimes we didn't have food on the table. Sometimes, I was a latchkey kid. I took care of my mom. These are all the things we've never put through. Took care of my mom. Let that out. But yes, I did. And also my brother, because she was, God love her, but she had alcohol addiction. And as we all know, addictions are hard to deal with. And as an adult, I get it. As a child, I understood it somehow because of my knowingness of things, and never felt hatred towards her, but a sense of pity and sadness. And so all of those things combined, I understood the situation. So even though she wasn't the best parent, looking back, like a lot of people in chat would never put our kids through what my mother did with us. But at the time, it was what it was, right? Like we played with lead toys and shit. Like it was just, we had keys, we went to school, we came home, we were alone. I was in LA, Los Angeles, on the streets of Burbank, walking my brother to school, 3 hours there and 2, crawling under train tracks. I mean, I'm lucky to be alive.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of things also that occurred, run-ins with adults that, should never have been in my presence, parties, things that I should never have, witnessed. So my heart really bleeds for these children that come out of these things that are found. Thank for the Lord that they're found, but I know that they're going to have years of therapy, and it's difficult. And so for me to have a true crime channel and cover these cases that I feel are so important, I have a place where I can come and understand it, but also a place of like, I don't know if I want to talk about it. I don't know if this is a good place to put my energy in. I would rather keep my energy for now on my tarot channel, because it's kind of away from true crime in a sense that we can all come from the true crime community over here and just hang out and talk and do what I do in a spiritual way that fills my heart and soul, and then it helps others, because I love helping people. I've done it all my life. I'm a caregiver by nature. Yeah, and that's like what I'm at.
I think that we forget sometimes, because and I have a couple comments starred, you guys, that you have left that I'm going to ask, including the one on the screen. But I just want to say first that, when I first started finding psychics in true crime, and the first one I found was Psychic Reverend Donna Serafina. And I've talked to you a little about this. So we're going to go back in this series that we're doing and double check dates and when her readings came out versus when police came out with things, because I just think that'll be really interesting, and with a few other psychics too. But I never even thought about how this could impact the case, the people involved, anything. I never even thought about it. And that's so selfish of me, right? But I'm just sitting at home watching these psychics and seeing them get these things right that I don't know how they would know. And now, which is what kind of inspired this video, I had seen Chasing Truth. She was doing a live about one of Donna's readings, and it was very graphic. And she was talking about how Summer's brothers could be online. And there was a Summer Wells reading. And, she says that Summer was, just for the long and the short, because we'll get into it specifically later in the series. But that Summer, what are those snuff films that she was part of, the snuff film and all of this like very graphic stuff. And Chasing Truth made the point of her brothers, will hear this. They can get on here and hear this. You think they don't want to see what happened to Summer Wells? That's their sister. They're going to see that and be like, oh, I want to see. So I think that it's so interesting. And also so unselfish of you to even think about that. These are real people. It's a big deal. You don't just put stuff out willy-nilly. It's just like the conspiracies around these cases. It could
Right.
make
And there's an exactly and there's enough of that as it is in the true crime. No offense, but there is like you know, I in my IMO is my favorite thing. I use it all the time. We all do, but it literally means 80% of true crime channels is IMO, right?
yeah.
So if you're, you know, looking for a missing person and you're going, you know, you're being, you know, escorted by this channel to that channel, this, and then you're going down the rabbit hole, and all you're seeing are all these opinions and all these IMOs and all these things. And I can appreciate, you know, I'm there. I've fallen victim to a conspiracy theory. I've fallen victim to my thoughts on all kinds of things. I mean, don't even get me started with the Cobber Case. But I just feel that, like, if in my place, like, I could not ethically, honestly, like from my heart of hearts, like I couldn't ethically really be okay with the fact that, you know, being a missing person myself, like being a family member, having someone missing, be told that, you know, all this information is there and they know where my kid is. And I just got to pay all this money to get to this place so I can start searching. And I lose hundreds and hundreds of dollars for something that was something that somebody maybe made up for their channel for clicks and views. Like, who knows what's real and what isn't? And we can generally sit here and say, well, yeah, she was right because she touched on some things. And you know, like for myself, I know I'm not right 100% of the time. So why could I sit here and say, there's the only way that I would ever go, and obviously it wouldn't be to YouTube, it would be to the, you know, police department or whoever was involved in that,
Right.
right, in that area, and say, hey, like, I keep having this repetitive dream. I feel this way 1,000%. You have, like, my mind will not stop. I don't know why it's happening, but you have to search in this area. Please, like, don't get the family involved unless you know 100% that I'm right. Right? That would be my like way about going to do it. But then you wonder, like, but then if you silence all of these psychics and tell them, like, ethically, like, that's a boundary you can't cross, then what if they do have relevant information? And what if they are right? And so you're kind of like, your brain goes like this because I don't think really any right or wrong answer to it all. You know, you can get lost in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, now there's a couple questions I want to, and we'll keep talking, but I don't want to lose these, and they're pretty good. Sure. So Music City Mom says, if you're doing a reading and you see something about a true crime situation, so let's just say you're doing a reading on MK and you see that there's a true crime or something like that, do you tell them?
You mean if it's one-on-one, like me and you say we're off camera and I'm doing a reading for you?
Both, I guess.
Oh God, that's harsh. Because I'd be a hypocrite to say I didn't do it, because I have done. Somebody came to me this year and asked me what my thoughts were and my feelings were about a specific situation off the record, and if I felt a certain type of way. That's all I asked. And I gave them my answer. And immediately I felt kind of odd, because I kind of went against the grain of what I feel is a boundary I think I crossed, you know, but this person was so desperate to know what I felt. And I thought, well, if it's just me feeling it and I'm not telling you, oh, this is what happened and this is, you know, no, I didn't do that. But if it was somebody that I knew personally, like, yeah, I think I would say, like, I think maybe I think the farthest I would go would be to say, I think either, you know, this was maybe natural causes or this was foul play.
Okay, interesting. Okay, and so Samantha is also sensitive, and she says, Foxy, that's why I don't. It's too cutthroat and true crime. I keep my sites to myself and off YouTube. She's a dear friend of our Bendy. And then, Ava has a question for you. Do you believe, so those situations from your childhood, the milk carton thing, you know, being in Los Angeles, walking to school, did those heighten your awareness?
100%. And I'm glad somebody in chat brought that up, so I didn't have to ramble on about it. I was thinking about that earlier. You know, I also grew up in an environment where it was constant change and you have to adapt and and it was like a secret life they were living, you know? So it was just like, burying things down, burying emotions, not being able to tell people, where all these things. And, it's really manipulative. And when you're a child that young and you understand the truth of things, and you understand you're in these like kind of messed up situations, you learn quick how to read a room. You learn quick how to know where's the safe spot, where's the place to run, where's the exit, who in this room can I turn to if I need help, right? It's quick. And I think that comes from also, childhood traumas, because if you're traumatized by something, you're going to have that trauma and it's going to stay with you forever, whether it's worked through, dealt with. You're at a point in your life where it's like, I can be functional. It doesn't bother me anymore. It's still a part of who you are. It's part of your essence.
Yeah.
It's happened to you. So you can't unvalidate that. Right. And so I think that does heighten your awareness, because you've been in that situation. It's like the hairs in the back of your neck stand up when somebody's in your room and they're a predator. You just know. It's like an inside feeling. And then if you're wrong about it, okay, fine. I'd rather be wrong about it than be right. I mean, I'd rather be right about it than be wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In other words, maybe I said that wrong, but what I'm trying to say is like, I'd rather get myself out of that situation, even if maybe I was wrong about the person, than take a risk of being in a situation where, I'm not safe. And as a child, that's what I would do. But as an adult, you learn and you're educated, and you as Cindy says, all the things in your life make you wiser, and you grow a different type of values and ethics. And I grew a lot from that. I did a lot of work on myself to come out of that place and become, a person that is I think I try to be, as transparent and kind and caring as I possibly can, because there's not enough people in the world like that. And if I had, I think, more people around me as a child, I think that, maybe I would have been brought to my dad quicker. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So not that my mom was bad. It wasn't a good environment for me or my brother, to be honest. But yeah. I don't know if I deferred from the actual. I don't know if I answered that question.
No, you did fine. You did. I had I had people walking through here for a part of it, so I was half.
Oh, okay.
Last little bit I half heard, but
yeah, it does heighten my awareness. I mean, also too, like just from all the experiences, having them happen over and over throughout my life, when you are a skeptic and you're like, oh, I'm just having a very imaginative, creative, that was the thing people told me growing up. Oh, she's really imaginative. Like they would laugh it off. And, got to the point where I'd be out clubbing with my friends and, so I'd walk past somebody and I'd say, oh my God, and I would hug them. I've had a few drinks, whatever. Like I hug people when, or used to, when I'd be out, I'm like, my best friend, how are you? And this woman was Jane, and she looked distressed. And of course I went right over to her and I said, can I hug you? And she's like, well, yeah. And I hugged her and I said, it's okay. I'm so sorry for your loss. And I turned around and I said, you will have another child. It's going to be fine. I didn't realize what I said because I'm kind of, a little bit tipsy. Right. And that's why I don't do readings when I drink, or if, I'm highly medicated on a new medication that's really whatever. I just try to stay low, which is why I've been kind of off YouTube for a while. But anyway, and so she said, oh my God, like, how did you know? And she started crying and she got my number and, we kept in touch for a while. But these things happen my whole life. And as a child, I think parents don't foster that in kids. I think today we live in a different world where we can do that and not feel like we're being ostracized. It's more accepted that people have. I think we are all gifted. I think we all have gifts, right?
To a degree, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even I think that maybe we all have the same amount, but we don't know how to. Not everyone is
access them, right?
Knows how to quiet their mind and that kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, so Mayla's mom says, so can you get messages from people that have passed on? I'm sorry, I just don't know much about it.
Yes. But it's different for me. So for example, if it's people I know that have are on their next journey, I call it, my lights flicker in my house, they'll flicker. And often there are orbs that show up around me when I'm recorded videos, which is why I don't record a whole lot anymore, because these freak me out when I'd watch them back. Yeah. There's a few still up.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. And, but And like my dad, I'll find dimes everywhere. You know, the whole pennies in heaven thing. Well, I remember when he passed away, I kept thinking, oh God, like, you know, he wasn't a big believer in, you know, the spiritual world and all the things, but he did think there was something, you know, like after he had his heart attack and he had an experience. He never talked about it with me, but I know that he did because I just knew inside. And I looked at him once and I said, did you happen to, and he just put his head down, lit a cigarette, and he's like, walked away. You know, he was that kind of guy. He was a very quiet man. And I thought, yes, he did. I know he did. And then after that, he started going to church, started doing all these things. And I thought, okay, like that was, he believes there's something that he saw or was he, I think he was had a visitation. I've had visitations as well. And we can talk about that some other time. It's a lengthy thing. But yeah, I mean, lights flickering, dimes, dragonflies are a little signal as well. I have a big thing with dragonflies. Yeah.
Somebody was talking about that earlier, which I wonder if they'll put it in the chat. That is interesting, the dragonfly thing.
Because they represent, in the Chinese folklore, they represent reincarnation. And I think sometimes they say that when you see a dragonfly, it's not the spirit, because the spirit continues on, in my opinion. And we can talk about it some other time too, but it's in my opinion, it goes on to another life, another timeline. And a timeline is basically reincarnation, because if you think it from my theory, you can pick any time in the timeline to go to. So essentially you're a time traveler.
Right. That's so, oh gosh, the timeline stuff is so confusing.
Crazy, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
We can do a whole 5-6 hour series of it, but no. But in terms of reading people's cards, sometimes I will get, it's funny because it's almost like, I explain this a lot in my channel, but sometimes it's like a push to my shoulder. Like I'll feel like, okay, say this, say it, just say it, just say it. There's no words. Like I don't hear words. I don't hear somebody talking to me. I don't see faces. I can't say, oh yeah, she's standing here in a red dress and she's got, you know, I can't describe people and I don't know who they are. But when that push comes, it's like in the back of my mind, I'm not saying what I'm supposed to say because I'm thinking this is crazy. It's crazy talk. Why would I say there's a barn with a bow? It makes no sense to me, right? But it makes sense to the person that I say it to. So once I get the push or I get the shivers or the chills or the goosebumps, goosies I call them. I have a goosebump alert that I hear banner. And those are sort of things that tell me that I'm surrounded by spirit, right? And I think there's something to be said by that. I think we all have experienced from time to time things, whether we want to accept that they are what they are. We do feel things, I think. And I think if more people were more open to it, you know, and said, okay, well, and just talk. Like Judy used to always tell me, who's there to listen to you? Who cares? If you want to say hi, Dad, then say hi, Dad. If you want to say hi, you know, to my mom, because she was gone at the time, say hi, Mom. And if she's flickering the light, tell her to either fuck off or ask her what she wants. Tell me, it was hilarious. Sorry for swearing, but that's what, you know, she was.
No, you can say whatever you want.
So, you know, so once I started hanging around with her, I kind of was more open to it. And then as an adult, in retrospect, did a lot of, you know, research, some training, went to different psychic, did some research on myself and started opening up with myself about it. That was the biggest thing, was coming to terms with it myself. I mean, I would have these, like, I don't want to call them premonitions, but like, and they're not even hallucinations. It's so, okay, this is an example. I was in my room, I think it was like Christmas Day, and a lot of things had happened. I thought I was under a lot of stress, and I smelled smoke. Like, I'm like, oh my God, is this burnt toast? Am I having a stroke? Like, what's happening? Right? So I run out to the kitchen, and I'm thinking the house is going to, like, the kitchen's going to be full of smoke. I'm smelling plastic, like this weird burning in my mouth, and there was nothing in her. And baby Foxy's like, what's going on? What's going on? What the hell? I'm like, you know, nothing, never mind. There was nothing out, you know, it was just, but then the very next day I'm sitting in my bed again. And I'm smelling the thing, and I'm, you know, having the image, and I'm like, that's just the same as yesterday. I'm not going to pay no mind to that. That's just my brain being stupid, right? Because still to this day, I doubt myself. And I smell it again. I'm like, no, I got to investigate this. I don't care if I'm wrong, right? So it's the kind of same thing with my tarot readers. Like, I will wait and wait and wait, and then I'll do it when I get the push. And when I went to this kitchen, my friggin' oven was on fire. there was plastic inside that was burning. There was flames. I had to it was the first time in my life, and I know how to use it, thankfully, but it was the first time I ever had to use a fire extinguisher. And it was crazy. I just put the rack in today. It took me that long to put my oven. So there's things that just happen that I don't think, you should ignore. And, because if you ignore them in that certain situation, it can be dangerous.
Well, how do you quiet, and I've been saving your guys' comments.
Great.
Yeah, I wanted you to see that one. And but how do you quiet your mind to pick up on some of those things if you just have like a busy mind?
And I do definitely have an ADHD mind for sure. Well, I had to learn how to meditate, and it's not easy when you start, because I remember I used to close my eyes and I would still hear do the dishes, do the laundry, check on your bills, work, kids, family. Did you call that person? Do that email? It took me like 3 years to finally figure it out that when it was like I had to train myself basically. And there are a lot of really great instructional videos on YouTube to do that, to the place where you can get a black slate in there. And as soon as you see blackness, it's just complete blackness. And then you can almost self-hypnotize yourself to the point where you just place yourself on a white chair. I surround myself with white light, with golden orb, with beautiful psychic blue, purple energy. And I just let it come out of me and protect me. And then I say, okay, God, I'm ready. That's how I do this. And then I sit down at my table and I go live, and whatever comes, comes.
See, I have a hard time meditating. And even when I did like a stay in a rehab once, there was this woman that would come and do it with us. And I could almost do it with her because her voice was just so calming, but it's just something that I have a hard time doing. And I know other people do too, calming their mind. Go ahead. Did you have something? Because I was going to read you a couple questions.
No, go right ahead. I was just going to say, I agree. It's really difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy for me sometimes, but I've done a lot of training. And so it takes, you start off with 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds and stop. And then you come back an hour later and you do 10 or 15, whatever you can handle. Then you just keep in, just like a sit up. I can't do 100 sit-ups today, but I could do them in 6 months if I did 2 every day for a week. Yeah, that's right. It's the same with your brain. It's a muscle, and you just have to exercise it.
Okay. Hey, Legendary, do you think, hey, everybody coming in that I missed,
is
Cray Cray going to get a good husband?
No, it's up to you, Cray Cray. Are you out looking?
Harlot says, I don't like when people who claim to be psychic make claims about current cases. The vast majority of them are just lying and making stuff up, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's true. And I think there's a lot of that. You can see a lot of that out there.
I do too, which I think makes people more skeptical.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's the fraudsters that make it hard for people like myself, who only know 10% of things, to be able to help certain people with certain things, where there's people who have 80% of their skills unlocked, and they're even more real than me. And, they're on there doing their thing, but, does it still make it right? I don't know.
Right. Crime Sleuthen says, how often do you feel that hypervigilance from a traumatic childhood leads to a psychic gift? Which you said you kind of think everybody does, but do you think you're more prone to notice it with the childhood trauma and the hypervigilance that might come along with that?
What's hypervigilance again?
Like if you're just you know how you said when you feel like somebody's a bad guy, like you're super on edge, you're watching very closely, you're paying. Mm-hmm.
So I think that, so a mentalist said it best when I was reading this interesting documentary, and this guy said there's a difference between psychics, well, I wouldn't say psychics, we'll say mediums, because it covers a broad variety. I had a conversation yesterday, or was it, I forget that, anyway, we were in our live the other day, and so I think it was Cutie Pie or somebody brought it up about, what's the difference between channeling and mediumship? And I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I really don't know. I have to be able to go look it up. But I think mediumship just is a broad stroke of all the different ways to do this, or allow things to go happen, right? And the person said, there's a medium, and then there's a mentalist, and a mentalist can read you by the way that you're moving, how you're saying things. They have an ability to understand things about you that you don't know that they think that you know what I mean? Like you would be like, oh my God, he knows everything I'm thinking, and but all he's doing is really reading you. So it's kind of like you do the same as a kid. You read the room. So in a sense, you become kind of a bit of a mentalist. But
Right. That makes
but
sense.
with what I do, it's like I don't do it. I don't assess it like, okay, that. It's more like because of that, it does heighten things. Like if I'm getting a feeling of something from my life when I'm doing someone's reading, then it's relevant to them and I'll share it as an
Right.
example of, I think this is what you're going through without saying this is what you're going through to embarrass or to expose the person in my chat.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. See, I love that. You're just so thoughtful of everybody. And I think that's important. And also, Teacup, I remembered it was you. I even remember the funny mother in law part and all of it. I just wanted to say that because she was the one with the dragonflies. And then JC has one I'm going to read in a minute what she sees as signs to you. But first, this is a tough question. Cutie Pie says, what do you have to say that people think what you do is wrong, evil, satanic, etc., etc.?
Good question. I get that a lot, actually. Growing up in a Christian household, this was a big struggle for me. You know, I had dreams my whole entire life of, oh, the devil's going to get me. You know, my mother was, I was baptized Catholic, as she was. And as a young teenager, she began to realize that, you know, Catholicism wasn't for her. She thought it wasn't right and all the things. And so she came out of it and became a Pentecostal, evangelistic. Um, I mean, there was just so many shifts and trade ups and changes. I think we went to pretty much, I mean, there was a Billy Graham. We went to all kinds of tent revivals, laying of the hands, you know, the people that talk in tongues, and then, you know, all the way to like Baptist, you know, which is boring. You're just sitting there and reading the Bible. So, I mean, like growing up in that environment, you know, I was taught that those things are evil. I was taught that that's satanic. Like, you know, to read a tarot card, the pentacle is satanic. And some people believe that and some people don't. Now, it took me a long time to stop saying coins on my cards and just read it as a pentacle, because when I looked it up, it doesn't really mean that. People just give it depends on what it is, right? It depends on what it is. And you can be somebody who is dark and somebody who is light in everything in life. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be either a good person or a bad person, have good intentions or bad intentions. Just like every pastor is not always a bad pastor, always a good pastor. Same with a priest, right? It doesn't mean one priest does one bad thing, they're all going to do the bad thing. It's not a generalized thing in my mind. I've never been a person to judge, be generalized, be biased, you know, not be objective with anything that comes across my mindset. It's always been this sort of like war in my head to say, okay, well, you have to look at this, you have to look at that, you have to tear it all apart before you make a decision. I mean, that's just how I'm built. I can't help it. And so for me, being brought up in that environment, one, I was always drawn to the church. I never found it boring. Number two, I was always the first kid that ran up to the front of the thing when it was Easter. I mean, I was always involved. I loved it. I always felt the Spirit. I always felt Christ. I still walk with Jesus, and I still read my Bible. And in the Bible, not that this is a biblical, you know, anything else, but in the Bible, there are a lot of prophets. There are a lot of prophets that came before Jesus and after Jesus and during Jesus, and he was also one of them. So, I mean, like if I walk with Jesus because I'm able to do what I do to help people, how does that make me bad? I don't know. I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either. And I've always, look, this is just my stance on it. I do believe in God. I'm not big on organized religion.
No, I'm not either anymore, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that it is possible that some of those things may have been added to some of our religious literature to keep people from realizing and accessing their gifts, to keep them doing what you want. And just like how government kind of does, I think that
controlling,
as a way for people not to realize that everybody probably has some level of this the inside of them. You know, it might not be the same, just like K-Braze was saying in chat, that they feel people's emotions, like literally feel them. I've always been like that. I actually, when I was younger, I thought everyone was like that. I never realized that people didn't feel other people's emotions. I could always tell if someone was angry, whatever, before they said anything. Yeah. And even if like somebody's upset with me and they're not saying anything that would lead me to believe that, it's almost like I can feel it.
Feel it.
So I've kind of always been like that. So that's interesting. I think we all have our own little gifts. Carol said, when did you realize? Can you share the scenario where you realized that you had this gift?
Yeah, I mean, it was a few. Well, there was 2 incidents. One was I was in a precarious situation, and I remember being frozen, like just frozen in time. I couldn't move my body, and I heard this voice, this, I don't know, uplifting thing in the back of my head that just said, "Run now, get up and go now, 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 do it." And as soon as I got up, I ran, and it saved my life. I might not be here today because I have every belief that that man would have killed me, would have raped me and killed me and left me for dead in LA. So there are a lot of situations from that moment going forward that I had listened to that little voice because it saved my life multiple times. The second encounter was 3 days before my mother passed away. She was a painter, very, very nice oil paint. She was a beautiful oil painter.
And you were young, right? You were
very young, like 9, 10 when that happened. And then that same year, she, cause she liked to get into the wine and she'd be painting and listening to whatever and then painting, drinking, painting. That's her thing. Okay, fine, whatever. Looking back now as an adult, maybe too much, not maybe around kids. I didn't do it around my son because of it, but anyway, it's the past. It happened. Can't change it now, right? And I knew when she had a portrait of Jesus that she had done and one of Mary. And, they both had the crown and the blood and all the things. And it was pretty graphic. Like, it wasn't your typical painting. And she was trying to fix the nose and she just kept trying and trying and trying. I remember staring at her and I remember this feeling that came over me and said, she'll be gone in 3 days. I just remember knowing it. It was weird. I remember staring at her thinking like, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to witness this again. And when she put the painting down and covered it up, not to be sad and whatever, but I mean, when she put the painting down and covered it up, I was just like, wow, like that's interesting that this is happening. It was almost like out of body. It was really strange. It's hard to explain. And then, 3 days later, she dies in her sleep from a brain aneurysm. So it was a lot. Yeah. That was the biggest thing I think that made me a believer, because that was, I called my aunt. My aunt said, "Didn't you just call here?" I said, "No, I didn't." That's how she was, right? I was visiting her in England when I turned 21, and a friend of ours had passed away, and my watch stopped at 3:00. And I called my friend and she's like, "Did you hear?" I was like, "Did they pass at 3?" She's like, "How did you know?" I'm like, "Don't ask me." I took the watch off. I put a new one on. It was a gift for my birthday. It stopped at 3:00 again. 3:00 is a big thing for me. 3:00 in the afternoon, 3:00 in the morning. In the morning, it's considered the witching hour. I don't know if anybody knows that. So it freaks me out. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it. And everything happens in 3. So I think that maybe down the line in history, there might have been some weird past life experience with, being in with the witch coven or something. And I don't know. It's always kind of bothered me. But I have friends that are Wiccan and they're lovely, beautiful people. And they're, they spread white light. They do natural healing. There's, so I think a lot of the times women in history, going back as far as Mary Magdalene, don't get me started, where I think women are given a really bad rap to keep us in our place. And I think now we're finally coming to a place where it was a long, long time ago in ancient times where, women were revered, important and smart and worshipped, because we do bear everybody that's in the world, like we've come from a mother, right? It's the biggest thing. Oh yeah. So if you're going to represent the earth as Mother Earth, I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me, So I mean, it's all how people look at it. It's all what the intentions are, and it's all what you believe. And I believe myself that happened, and it was going to happen, and it did. But
it's crazy. And your story just resonates with me so much. And we talked about this deeply, on the phone, because you went through a lot that my little cousin is going through losing her mom. And yeah, so I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And
But you know what? It's made me stronger. It's made me, like the person in the chat mentioned, more hypervigilant. I get, if I confess, and also I've been through a lot of grief in my life. Like I've lost a lot of people over the entirety of my life, right? And so I'm no stranger to grief. I understand it. I can feel it. I don't know how through a screen, but I can. I don't know these people's faces. I don't know where their stories. I don't know. But if I'm reading their cards, it's like it just comes through me. And it's like, wow, like you must be dealing with a lot of grief. And they're like, yep, you nailed it. I'm like, I don't know how, but it just happens. But yeah, your cousin was a beautiful person, and she's with you, my girl. She's with you.
I know. JC said her experience was with underwig moths. I see them all the time now since my dad passed, and they were a main character in story he wrote that I was named after.
Wow.
So cool.
That's so beautiful. What's an underwig moth? I don't think I've ever seen one. Is that the really big one with the different colors?
I don't know either. I'll just Google it. How about that? Because
Yeah.
I don't know either. Underwig moth.
Because I know butterflies are a big thing for a lot of people. They represent change and metamorphosis, and some cultures reincarnation. Dragonflies are big in reincarnation. Some cultures look a bit differently than others. Dragon was considered a reincarnation thing. Oh wow, yeah, the colored ones. I thought so. Yeah, but I was imagining them more like black and white. But I don't think I've ever seen one with the red and black. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Rena, you do have so many signs, and I did a live with Rena on this channel, you guys. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. And
it was amazing.
It was so fun. I just adore Rena, and enjoyed the conversation. Cutie Pie said Cardinals, and I know my cousin will not come to me as a Cardinal. I was telling some of the girls this earlier, because she was terrified of birds. She hated birds, so I definitely know they will not be coming. She won't be coming to me as one of them.
But red cardinals are a sign of reincarnation in a lot of myth and folklore. Like a lot of times you'll find Christmas cards and the red cardinal is on them. There's reason for that, right? Like
yeah, you're right. Yeah. In the snow, you're so right about that. I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Janet says, my son and I were so close, really, really close. I feel he should be here more to calm me because he was my world, like my whole world. He was super religious due to his mental illness, and I miss him. I'm so sorry, Janet. I just wanted to comment on that. Now I have a question for you. Crime Sleuthin says, question, I got a tarot reading last week that blew my mind. Do you do tarot? Which?
Hi, Crime Sleuthin. Girl, I know your name, but I'm going to say it. Yeah, I do, yes.
Okay, let's see. Have you ever had a bad feeling about someone and found out you were wrong?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Yep. And now, since this is going to be a true crime based series, and this is just the introduction, you guys were just kind of hanging out, and we're going to plan it as we go with like different particular readings, cases, and psychics. But have you ever had a feeling or even validated that in privacy about a case, maybe with tarot or whatever, and been wrong?
Well, I recently told a reader in my chat that, they were going to get a drop. They didn't get it. And I was like, okay, well, I was wrong. It happens, I mean, I could sit here and say, well, maybe it was because the timeline changed and all the things moved in different directions. And that could be the case. But I don't know. You have to listen. If you're wrong about something, I really say just own up to it. You have to, because how else are you going to like build on what you have and know like, okay, well, I'm not going to go with that feeling again because that feeling definitely didn't read me down the right direction. So, but in terms of true crime, let's just say, the cases haven't been closed yet to validate my opinion, or we'll say my opinion to keep it.
Okay, good.
And check. Keep the boundaries.
Let us know when they do. No, Brandy says, do you think everyone that passes can visit us?
No.
Ooh.
I don't.
Why?
Because the person has to be open to the visitation. And if you're not open, then they won't come near you because they don't want to scare you.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you something just personal?
Sure.
And then there's a couple more that I want. okay, so when my cousin passed away, she had a baby that passed away years before. Let me see, in 2008, and he was 2 months old. He passed away from SIDS, and when she passed away, people, I guess, to comfort me and other people in our family, would say things like, she's with her baby. She's finally holding her baby again, this and that. And to me, I like, just knowing her personally, I just kind of thought, no, we're holding her baby here on earth. And I just knew her, and I knew that, because just knowing her personality, she was very sassy. I feel like her very first thought when she realized would have been like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? And I feel like she would have been angry. Do you think that spirits go through like that, any emotional process like that, that is anger, sadness, grief on the other side?
It's interesting because I have two sides. It's like I have two answers, but they're completely contradictory. It's so weird.
Ooh,
So
okay.
I'll say this much. There's a part of me, will say, that believes that, when somebody says, "Oh, well, they're with Jesus now," I want to punch them out. Because the loss of a child, or a loss of a parent, or a loss of a loved one, or a sibling, or a spouse is, I would say children most likely would be the worst, but I mean, please don't say that to people. I know it's in your heart and you're trying to be kind, and I'm sure they believe that deep down, but it's not what they want to hear.
Right.
Until they've, dealt with their grief. And it sometimes takes a long time. I'm still dealing with my father, and he's been gone now 3 years. So
Yeah.
now the other part of this is that I don't think that, so I talk a lot about energy on my channel, and frequency, and tuning in and changing the channel to get the right vibration and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, like, we all are just electricity, and we travel through our body. And when our body's done, our soul leaves it and travels with the electricity. And so, with that logic, one would suggest that you just move on with the light, into the light, and carry on into the next, I call them journeys, whether that's through reincarnation in this time, or another timeline, or a past or a future, whatever it is. It's not linear, I don't think, when you leave here in the physical world. And then there's a part of me that wonders if you don't travel with the electricity and you kind of get stuck behind, might be reason why a lot of people discuss the in-between theory, and, purgatory, and, you have to work out your grievances, and you have unfinished business, and they just don't want to go yet because maybe their loved one is sad and they have to stay with them until they're okay. So I kind of believe both. I don't know. I kind of get thrown with that one because, again, like I said, part of me feels one way, and then I also feel a different way. So,
Well, I had an experience that I know that just told me for sure that spirits are in this realm with us, because I know, like, as a child, my parents weren't religious, but you hear through religion and stuff that they're not on, spirits don't walk the earth and that kind of thing. But my mom's brother passed away a few years ago, and he was very young. He's like almost 20 years younger than my mom. He was almost like the same age as like my older brothers, but he had a teenage son, and my little cousin was down in the basement of their house, and he took a picture on Snapchat for his girlfriend, and like in the back over his shoulder, you could see my uncle fully. I mean, you could see his jeans, his head, his outfit. He was like in the middle of these steps, so it wasn't like a natural position for him to be in, because he was like standing in the middle of this staircase, but he was there. There is no doubt about it. I could even see his nose and like facial features, so I know that he was there. I don't know if he was waiting to go on, to watch and make sure they're okay or whatever, but he was definitely there. So
oh yeah, and that's true as well. A lot of times when I've done my rabbit hole down timeline theory, it brings it back to the same question, like, what's all the ghost, sightings? What are the pictures? What do they mean? And a lot of the answers and explanations for that was like, okay, well, if you, like, we can't see like the other dimension we're currently in, right? And there's, like, according to physics, there's like an infinite number. And what if we're just tapping into that, what you can't see, which is the in between, the unseen area of our timeline that we're merged with? Like, And maybe that's a multi-world thing. Maybe it's, it's weird. It's like, maybe we're seeing like a snapshot of another timeline in which your grandfather's alive and well, and you're the one that's gone. And he's taking a picture of you. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't know really. I mean, who really knows at the end of the day what all these things are? But like myself, who's a skeptic, I try to explain everything away. And sometimes the best answer is just to sit with it. And it depends on how you feel. If you feel in your spirit and in your soul and in your heart that is your loved one, like I do often, then I will claim it and I will thank it. And I will say, thank you for showing up. And, if you're a loved one from a long, long time ago and I don't know you, please be kind. If you're here you need to go, the door's over there if you're going to start up. Like, I don't need any craziness in my home. But yeah.
Be nice.
All right. Be nice. Everybody good luck.
Okay. I have a few just comments.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
you go ahead.
This quick little tiny snippet. I know they didn't seem like they're long, but anyway. I remember one time my son and I both were in my hallway, and I live like in a walk-in basement. So it's kind of, you get that feeling anyway, but it was at night, and he said to me, Mom, and Baby Fox has seen a lot of things to make me a believer in the ghost theory, right? A lot of things. He still does. And he's like, there's somebody out there. They're not bad, but I don't like that they're there. Go check it out and tell me what you feel. And I was like, okay. So I go out and I'm scared. I got like my broom and my, helmet.
Oh my God.
For Uncle Buck trying to get this thing out of the cabin. And I go there and I don't see anything, but I'm standing there and I can feel it, like a cold thing come over me. And I'm just like, oh, he's right again. And I'm just like, all right, who is this? And what do you want? And then I went back to bed and I said, I feel it's peaceful and I'm okay. We'll just see how. So this went on for 3-4 days. We felt this. Then I went to my neighbor, and my neighbor had actually booked for my birthday an online like teleconference for, I don't know, she was some kind of medium, but she wasn't really on with a lot of things, what she said. So it was kind of wishy-washy. And maybe I got from it what I wanted, because sometimes we do that. But she did say, she said, there is a great, great, great grandmother that's not happy with your apartment and how you clean. On your grandmother's side of your father. And I was like, I can do that too. So I call up my uncle and I'm like, did your grandmother, like, what was she like? Like, if she'd be cleaner, was she messy? Like, help me do. Oh, he said, listen, my mom used to freak out whenever, because she'd have to have everything spotless. My mother, she was always like worrying when she came over because everything had to be just so, and the plates had to be in the sparkle and this and that. And I'm like, oh God, it's her. It's got to be, because every time I walked in there, I got this weird feeling like I should clean something. I need to dust something. Like, it was weird, right? And so at least I got that from that. And that was at least one thing that might have been validated. And I took it, claimed it, went with it.
That's pretty funny. Your grandma is not happy with how clean your apartment is.
Clean your house.
Crime Sleuthin had a comment. It's not really a question. I just thought it was very sweet because Janet was talking about missing her son. She said, did you know us mothers carry the cells of all of our children? Those cells go to areas of injury and infection and pain. He is still with you, literally. And
100%.
I love that. And I want you guys to hear that in chat who need to hear it. KPM says, my mom comes in the form of her perfume as a cloud. I just happen to walk through at times.
Wow, that's amazing. Smells are big for the olfactory systems are massive with memory, right? So if you're smelling things, then that's a real close encounter.
Oh, wow. See, I feel like, for me, with memory, not like psychic memory, but just memory.
No, just
and
in general.
Smell. Yeah, smell always brings me back. Just, Jamie says, what about hummingbirds? I've had an experience with them.
Well, hummingbirds are the only thing that can stay in one place and flap its wings. I think it's like a gazillion times, just to stay. Look, it looks like it's not moving. And there is some folklore about them, but I can't recall it at this moment. But yeah, they're really interesting creatures for sure. And if you see hummingbirds and they mean something to you, and like my mom used to always say, oh, when I die, I want to be a bird so I can fly, fly far, far away and be happy and be peaceful and chirp and sit in a tree and just keep watching you. And I'm like, okay. So I'm here, and sometimes I'll see these 2 crows show up. No, I don't like crows. Okay, people like crows. I think they're okay. Like, but after I watched The Raven, read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, I'm like, I don't know. And so, I'm looking and they just fly off, and every so often, but it's always 2. It's like 2 ravens or 2 blue jays or 2 robins or, so there's something to birds for sure.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I know my cousin ain't going to be a bird, but no, just.
Yeah.
Christine said, Foxy, I would truly value a conversation with you sometime. I'm going to subscribe and try to catch you live soon. Christine is my friend who, do you know who she's been
Your
on
videos
panel a
and
few
things?
times. Yeah, she does the videos and stuff. Yeah. So she would love to talk to you. Let me see. B Crumbs had a question. Now, this is up to you. However you feel. She said, could you do a live reading for one person who hasn't had one before? If you're willing to do that, maybe if you want to, you could keep it short, like a card or 2, maybe. I don't know. Or we could do that another time. That's up to you. And then I got one more question here.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, I'm feeling, I think maybe another time.
Yeah. Okay. That is okay. Cause I think you should absolutely.
It's just, there's a lot of muddled waters in the energy, and I don't want to cross read anyone.
Okay. Yeah. And I could definitely see that, because a lot of people with their experiences.
Right.
Stuff going on. Okay. Christine said, I have a question. Do you think it's a crime to tell someone their life is already half over? Apparently she went to a psychic, and the psychic told her life was half over, and she holds a grudge and has not forgotten that.
Well, I mean, yeah, if it's negative news, I wouldn't say shit, but that's just personal preference. I was to, a psychic, like I said before, and a few different times. And this one lady who's very, very revered in Canada, she basically said I was marked for death multiple times. And it made me cry, because she was right. And, she said I wasn't supposed to live past 30, and, I did it. So like, she's like, in this life, you're meant to help people. You beat the clock, or whatever I should put it, I forget. But it did make me feel a certain type of way. Like, is tomorrow my day? Like, is tomorrow my day? Is it like friggin' that movie, where, all the things happen, I'm going to die next, like Final Destination? I missed the Green Reaper passed me over. I'm like, okay. But yeah, no, I don't. I would never. And, honestly, when I open up myself to kind of navigate the energy and do a reading and read from that card and how I'm feeling for that person, regardless of who they are, I don't ever let those thoughts come in. Like, I block all of that. So it's like, it's almost like, it's weird, because it's kind of like I made an agreement with God. It's like, look, like, I will do all the helpful things, but I just don't want to give anybody bad news, the wrong intentions, the wrong information. If I mess up once in a while, that's okay, as long as it's not big and important and life-changing. Like, I would never tell somebody, if you go drink the water from this fountain on 34th Street, you're going to, cure your cancer. Like, you know what I mean? And there are people out there who do that, and it gives us who just want to help people a bad name. Like, I'm not saying I'm a revered psychic. I'm just like some little person in Canada doing a little teeny tiny tarot card channel who wants to help people, and it makes me happy. So, but there are people out there that do that, who are on big platforms, like massive, and they'll go to like Melissa said in her live one time, she's like, oh, she's like, oh, do you want, this and this and this, and she'll pick somebody from the audience, and it's like everybody has a grandmother. Like, what the hell? Like, that's nothing, so I'm not, I don't know. But with death, it's tricky. I wouldn't do it. Even if I was like, Alex, like, I'll tell somebody, like, stay the fuck away from this person that's coming in because they're bad news. Like, I will say that on like, I'll tell people straight up. But, and if I'm saying, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you, like, I'll get serious. You can ask my subscribers. Sometimes I'm not always sweet. And, like, I'll tell people, stop fucking around. Like, do this thing, or you're going to lose your friends. Right. But when it comes to death, diseases, like,
oh God,
all that, unless it was like a flash of, like, I got to tell this person and warn them for some specific reason, which I've never gotten. Yeah, no, I don't think.
Oh my gosh. Pointer Lover said a psychic told her she was going to die at 65 and she's about to turn 64.
See,
Oh,
girl, no, don't pay
no,
attention
they're
to
wrong.
that.
Sorry.
No, I mean, listen, I was told I was going to live a long life, like right up until I was 100. I'm like, I do not want to live till 100. I don't want no believing in that. I mean, if I've got grandbabies and I'm functional, okay, but I don't want to be living in a bed in a hospital waiting to die. Like, no, but I don't want to be, told that I'm going to die like in a year or 2 years. I don't think I'd even want to know. I mean, there's a part of me that would be like, maybe if it was terminal or something from a doctor. Yeah, that's a doctor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've seen psychics do that on TikTok, tell people about really horrific diseases and stuff. Now, the last true crime question I have, then I'm going to answer angels, and then we'll be back for part 2 soon, unless you have anything you want to add at the end. But are you ever watching, like, for instance, the thought I had when I thought about asking you this was Chris Watts on the porch. Do you ever like see something like that and there's just an inside of you, you're like, oh, I know for 100. You're like, oh yes. Okay. Tell me about that. Cause that is really interesting. Like, did you on that one in particular, or is there any you can think of where
All
you
of
were like,
them. All of them, Allie, all of them. But the problem is I wasn't around for all of them from the jump. I'm just watching footage after the fact, right? So a lot of these cases are already solved, but I don't know the information about it. So I'm sitting there and I'm going like, okay, well, this is not good. Like, this girl's in the water, but she's not there yet. And then the Kylie Rodney case thing happened, and there was all this talk about, when did she go in the water? What point, when. But I would never, and again, that's just one of the things I thought of, like, does it make me right about it? No, I mean, nobody knows what happened, but I wouldn't go on a live broadcast and be like, I know this is exactly what happened, but yes, I do get the vibes. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong about them, because I don't have anybody sit there and validate that for me, right? To say like, okay, well, you're on the right track, no. And also, like the Watts thing, he was very deceptive in nature just by his body language.
right?
So, I mean, I don't think that one can watch a video and get a really good feeling about it if you have kind of bias. Like, for example, a lot of times I'll go into true crime channels and I'll hear people saying, or I'll see the people saying in chat, like, oh, just look at him. Or I'll take Brian Koberger, for example, since he's still in the news and it's, hasn't even gone to trial yet. Definitely looks like the person, it's definitely him who was in the area and all this. No, I don't believe he's guilty. I don't believe he's not guilty. I don't have a stance on it, right? But I could sit here and tell you I thought a lot of things in the beginning, and I'm not going to air them in public because I wouldn't do that. I just can't. But I thought about them. I've written them down. I've done cards off camera, like,
Can I just say, like, how much I appreciate that about you? Because I didn't even know it was something I cared about until, like I said, I had watched that video with Chasing about psychic Reverend Donna, which is why I wanted to do this kind of series, this with you. But like now, I just appreciate that so much about you. I think that shows your integrity, your heart. You could very easily jump on here and do videos about Summer Wells, Gabby, Kylie, any of these major cases, Savannah, these cases that blow up, Letitia. You could very easily do that. Now, I did ask you one time if you didn't feel, Tiffany, I said that she, like her intuition, felt you mentioned BK in the chat, because then she brought up, as soon as Tiff put in chat Brian Koberger, you brought it up. It was like you could feel it. But no, I just appreciate that so much. And oh yeah, I did ask you.
I've come close though, Allie. I've come close, Allie, multiple times. Like I saw this true card deck that this one particular tarot card reader was doing, and everybody was like, she's amazing, and I'm like, she's not being truthful. And I had an off camera conversation with somebody that was like all about her, and I'm like, but I like her cards. I want to buy those cards. I would love those true crime cards because I want to do the true crime readings, but I can't do them, so I'm not going to buy them, because if I buy them, I'm going to do them, and I can't do them. Like, I just can't do it. I like that's. I mean, honestly, I feel this way now. I hope to God it stays that way, because I am tempted so many times to be like, okay, let's just do it for fun, guys. Let's do it behind a membership, or let's do it private so nobody knows about it, or let's, but at the same time, it still goes against my ethics. So it's this dance I'm constantly doing, and I don't know. It's just
well, what about like what I brought up? What if you do a reading on, let's just say, for instance, BK or Letitia, what they're doing now in jail after the crime. Nothing about the case, nothing about the crime, just a reading on this person's right now. Is that different? I feel like that would be a little bit different.
I will say this much about Brian Koberger, and a lot of people aren't going to like it. And again, I don't feel in a certain type of way, but I have read him. And I would definitely yes, I don't think, because I think there's an onus on us readers, us true crimers, whoever we are, putting out information about these missing people, that the family and the victims are taken care of in the most respectful way. And I feel like your channel does that. MJ's channel does that. There's a few others. And I think it's really important to honor that and be respectful and kind. And sometimes, yes, it can get, a little sideways. And then if we course correct, it's fine, right? And I don't think that it would be an issue with me personally. I think that's a boundary that I could push a little bit out and would feel ethically somewhat okay about it. And in terms of like doing a reading on Brian Koberger or the Watts case, which I have thoughts on as well. Feelings, and Connie Rodney and all the things. But then I ask myself, but then what happens if they're innocent? And what happens if they're guilty and I say they're innocent? Then what does that say about me? So there's also a bit of like ego there to say like, well, what if I'm wrong? I don't want to be humiliated. I don't want to be wrong. I know the worst thing to be is wrong. I think to myself, but it's okay to be wrong because that's how you learn. That's how you move forward. That's how you grow. You become wise out of being wrong and making mistakes. That's how you get better at something, right? So it's like, it's a teeter-totter, right? It's a dance I play with myself. But, as long as I could set healthy, ethical boundaries, which maybe we can figure out what those are on our series, and then see what happens.
Yeah, I can't wait for the next one because I think we'll start like the next one we'll talk all about Donna, her readings, the cases, and I'll send you some stuff over like tonight and we'll look over it for like a week and then we'll get into that. But I do have just a couple last questions in the chat. So the one on the screen, do you have any tips to spot someone who's not being truthful when they do a reading?
Well, like I said, I haven't been to, you mean like as a psychic, like if you're going to a medium or a psychic or somebody that's reading cards or palms or whatever. I haven't been to a lot. I mean, like I've been to maybe 10 or 12. I've met 10 or 12 people. I've gone to maybe 4 people that have, paid for, and I've, they've told me things, and 2 people were so right I cried, and the other 2 were like, I didn't feel anything. But doesn't mean to say they were wrong, because then down the road I started getting these like, oh wow, like how do I, this sounds familiar. This seems kind of like what that woman said, and I'll go back and listen to it and I'm like, holy shit, like so this stuff is coming true or has come true. So I think also there's no sense, and that's the other thing I struggle with, is like a timeline. People often ask me like, when will this happen and when will that happen? And so, because for me, time's not like, okay, we live a life, we go to work, we do the things, we have appointments, we raise our kids, there's soccer, there's all the, whatever. And so we have to live on a linear timeline because that's the construct that we're with, right? But in my spiritual world, in my mindset, it's cyclical. It's like it's a continuous loop. It's the figure 8. That's why this year is super important. And a lot of things, it's coming to start again, ending and starting. And so especially a lot of things coming out in the media, truthful things that are coming out and people coming forward and things being exposed, right? So it's the number 8 year, which is, in the infinity symbol. And I look at time that way. And this year's going to be a rocky year of things. Mine started out pretty awesome. I will say that. But the difference is that there's a positive outcome to it, right? And that's the difference from this year and last year. A lot of things were not positive outcomes last year. So hopefully this year will be better. And I feel like
I hope so too.
Yeah. But it's hard. It's hard because you just don't really so there's somebody in the chat that said, how do you, I just want to say, touch on this before you go too. Something about
Well, Forgets and Shiggles wanted to know how to get a reading. So go subscribe. Every weekend she does them, and she's going to start implementing some new things to get readings out. So the last 4 things that I have marked, Teacup and JC both ask about cards. So what's a good deck to start with? Should I be drawn to it? And is it true that your first
That's
deck
one.
should
Yeah.
be gifted to you? And is it bad juju to buy your own?
Okay, so here's the deal. The mythology behind gifted tarot decks comes from Wiccan practice. If you're born a witch, you gift your witch child at 11 years old a deck. That's where that comes from. I was not born a witch. I don't practice witchcraft. I'm not Wiccan, right? I only picked up a tarot deck like when I was in my teens, I'd say maybe 17, 18 years old. Got rid of it and then picked it up again in my 20s. The tarot card itself is like, for me, it's kind of like my crystal ball or palm. When you're touching somebody's hand, you can feel things. I see things. I don't only see them, but it's like I get a feeling, and I'll say, who's this person? And I'm like, what? He was my 3rd grade. How'd you know? My 3rd grade crush. I'm like, well, you never got over it. He's like, no, I'm 56. So it's just this weird, it's a medium. It's like what you use to focus the energy on. And tarot cards are really helpful for me because I'm still learning about my gifts. So the imagery, right? And the things on them and the numbers and what they represent and all the different meanings and how they're together and how they're apart and what a major arcana means, what a minor arcana, those are all really nice hints that help you gather the information that you need. And I think that if somebody is just sitting there and going, yep, that's not, that to me, that's a flag. I don't know. I just don't, that's just my personal thing,
And should you be drawn to, like, if you want to choose a deck, should you go in and choose one that you're more drawn to?
Yes, because my first deck, I had to be drawn to it. It's like every pet I've ever owned, like personally, either took in or went to a vet or I had to get a sense of the little run to the litter because I love the underdog, to help the elder. So I go, and that's my preference. Now with the deck, it's the same type of energy. I have to feel that it's meant to be with me. Same with like, when you have an identity and you wear the clothes in high school to, show your identity and express yourself, right? Or if you're buying a car
analogy.
Yeah, it's just kind of like that, right? But when I first started tarot card reading, it wasn't, like, let's read the book and figure out what they mean. I used to spread them all out, right? And then I'd have my hand and I would just place my hand over them, and wherever I feel the hot, I would stop and I'd be like, okay, and keep going and see if I felt it again. And if I didn't, I'd go back and I'd pull that card. And that's how I got used to working with energy, right? Because I could feel
how cool
feelings from objects now. And at that point in time, that's kind of when I upped my game and thought, okay, I'm going to do tarot cards now and read them and learn about them. And
well, on our last episode of our series, I have some cards and oracle cards and a pendulum and just all kinds of things. I'll bring them just for fun, and we'll just sit and look at them.
Yeah. I've never used a pendulum. So that's kind of, I have one. It's gifted to me. Yeah.
That's the thing that I've felt the most energy off ever. Now, I'm skipping Tess's, which I want to read and comment on before we go, but Crime Sleuthin had asked, do you mess with Ouija boards, and how do you feel about that?
No. And I'll tell you why. I'm not saying they're evil and all that, because who knows what they are. But my personal experience being an empath, okay, first of all, I pick up on feelings anyways. So mine are heightened by all my experiences, right? Growing up. We did a Ouija board. My mother used to tell me all the time, because I grew up Christian, stay away from it, the devils. You just bring an evil into the house. You're opening a doorway. One could argue, well, what's the difference between channeling and mediumship than just, putting a thing around the board and things being spelt out? What's the harm in that? Well, the difference is in my opinion, and again, it's just me, I don't speak for anybody else. From my experience is that I had some really
No, you're fine.
Fucked up things. I figured the thing went flying off the board, and my friend me ran up the stairs. We never touched it again, and that was that. And it was intense. And then when I did some research, I realized that the Ouija board is interesting because what happens is you are just opening the door to anything.
Right. You never know. I've
You
used
don't
one and
know.
had experience where I know it was real. It was so scary. Me and my friend were
Did you
kids
get
and
a yucky feeling right here, like a deep, heavy feeling?
yeah, just like, but I was a kid, so I don't know about that it's in
Mm.
specifically. However, I did feel just like I don't know if it's like I want to describe it as like a scared, just like a very
Mhm.
yucky energy, like
It's
just to feel like,
unsettling. Mhm.
and I know it was real because it moved all over. It knew things it should have never known. It was
Yeah,
just so creepy. Well, what
yeah.
about spirit boxes? Tess says dowsing rods, anything like that. Have you ever messed with that? The dowsing rods are fascinating to me to watch.
Okay, so dowsing rod works on frequency and vibration and resonance. There are this is really cool. We could talk about this forever, but there are vortices around the globe, right? So basically the earth gives off a resonance, it bounces off the moon and back, and it's a specific frequency. It's a tuning fork basically to the moon, and the moon is related to the waves and the waves and all of the
Mhm.
things that make the world around, right? Which is also connected to us, right? Like our cycles of the that's what they're called, cycles, because they're based on the moon cycles, right? So anyway, there are these little things called ley lines that are all around the globe, and Melissa J probably loves this because she knows probably most likely all about it. But there are all these ley lines that interlock with each other and create what's called a vortex, and it's like a little imagine them as like an X because one line's going this way, one line's going that way. For example, no, where I live in Nova Scotia, there's one that goes strictly right through it, and where the castles are built when the early settlers came here to search Oak Island, because Oak Island's off the coast of Nova Scotia, like the one all the things are buried in, not the other one. I found out there's two. But anyway, they based their location on ley lines because they realized that the tide came in and left at a certain specific time, and that's how they built their booby traps, right? So there are all these different places around the world that are electromagnetic in nature. And a lot of the pyramids are built over these vortices. They're also called aqueducts, natural aqueducts. And that's why now today we're starting to realize that maybe these pyramids were actually like maybe power plants because they create electrical magnetics that could be a resonance that could actually create a force field that's unseen, untouched, unheard, but definitely would raise a specific or decrease a specific vibration. It's in the music industry. They know all about it. Specific hertz. I think it's 423, 523 tuning. It's all a big thing. People really know about this topic a lot more now than they did before. But I think what dowsing rods do is they pick up because you're holding them in your hands like a magnet, right? And even though you can get wooden ones, you can get steel ones, they always do the same thing. They move with whatever the electromagnetics is. So that's how they work. And when they crisscross over like a ley line, that's when you've hit your spot. That's my theory.
Right. Yeah, it's so cool to watch too. Now you do sage after your readings and stuff, right? Don't you?
I do. If I feel a certain type of way, I will sage my house. I've had to do them a few different times, but not for anything bad in nature, just to kind of clear the thickness of the air. Or this one time I had a really bad panic attack about a feeling I had about someone that was in the neighborhood. I couldn't place where it was coming from, but it was really heavy, like in a specific place in the house. And so I went and saged it and then disappeared in my panic. And I was like, "Ooh, I feel better." So, not
Okay.
after every reading. No, not everyone. No.
Tiff had a question. She might be gone. She's curious, not a psychic question, but just your regular thoughts and opinions. Do you
Mhm.
think Brian Koberger will be convicted?
Yes and no. Yes,
Mm.
if he doesn't get off on a technicality, he will be convicted. I'll just say that.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And then the last comment I'm going to read to you, and then I'm going to let you go because I could sit here and go on about this for hours and hours and hours. I'm so glad we're doing a series. It's going to be tons of fun. But Tess said a TikTok creator did an unsolicited reading on Sarah Turney a couple weeks ago. Sarah responded saying it was very offensive as the psychic said a couple things that were very inaccurate. Now, wasn't she a missing person at one time and then found or something? Or is she the sister of, oh gosh, I get confused, but I know I've heard that
That name, it sounds familiar to me, but I can't place it either.
But that's pretty crazy though to think about, like, you're doing unsolicited readings on, how do you feel about that? Like an
So that's the thing. I make it very much even if you're in my chat, I will ask you to ask me if you want a reading by either putting a 1 or a 2 or a 3 in the chat, because I will not do your cards unless you give me permission. Like, I won't do a reading on you, Ellie, or Tess, or B Crumbs, or Cutie Pie, or JC, or whoever. Oh, you got wonderful people in chat. Unless you want me to, because I think it's an invasion of privacy. It's just like if you were psychically like connected telepathy wise to somebody and you could read each other's thoughts. How would you feel about people knowing how you're thinking constantly all the time? Like that book, The Chrysalids, freaked me out in high school. I was like, I don't want anybody to read my thoughts because, there's a lot of compartments in there, So it's kind of like an invasion of privacy. And somebody told me once a long time ago, and it really resonated with me. They said, it's not your business to know how everyone else thinks about you. It's really not. It's only your business to know how you think about yourself. That's it. And be yourself, be authentic. And, because once you start getting into the business of like, why does the person think this way about me? Like, what did I do? Like, I don't get it. And I pray victim to it just like everyone else still, but it just really stayed with me. Like, and it always made me feel a certain type of way. Like, yeah, like he's right. Like it's not my business to know what they think about me. It's really not. That's their personal mindset. That's their feeling. That's their thought. If they share that with me, then it's a situation. If it's a bad one, right? And if it's a good one, it's awesome. You're sharing. It's the same thing with my cards. Like if you're going to ask me for a reading, and I always say, don't ask if you don't want to know. You can ask everybody in chat. Because I will say how it is, except for like I did mention, I won't say bad things. I won't, And the second thing is, I won't do it unless you ask, and there has to be a permission there. That's I always have that rule.
I love that. I think that it's great. It is an interesting topic, Bushi. Well, I guess that we will wrap up this one because, things are starting to get hectic here, and go get the kids settled for school. And then,
you have a lot to do tonight.
yeah, but also one thing I'm going to do tonight is find a few videos by this one particular psychic, and that will be our next part of the series. Just her, I think, because there was another one you wanted to talk on, and we'll do that one after.
Yeah, sounds great. Just quickly, Carol Clark says you can get sage spray as a mask, you guys. I've made them and it's amazing. All you just need is a little bit of all. It's like you can use rubbing alcohol, some distilled water, and an essential oil and a carrier, like a coconut or like a coconut oil, or even if you have like the hard coconut, stuff that comes in a container, you can just put it in there and let it melt at room temperature and shake it up. And then you can use that as a roll on, or if you want a spray mist, you just put a little bit of alcohol, water, and your essential oils. You can get sage essential oils. And that is a sprayer, and you can mist yourself just to cleanse as well. If you're going into a toxic environment at work, or, you just kind of want to leave the bus and you're like, ew, I feel icky. Just give yourself a little mist. That's what I do. Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Hey, Chris. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I can't wait for the next one. I hope that you guys go subscribe. It's in the description. You will love her. What day this weekend? Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday. I usually go 12 o'clock Atlantic Eastern. So that would be like 10 a.m. your time, Allie. I think if you're 2 hours behind, or are you 1 hour behind me? I think
1 hour.
Yeah, you're 1. Yeah. So it depends on your time zone, but as of late, kind of been going through my own stuff. So I've kind of been not really I've been more typically, reliable with that time frame. So I can't guarantee I will be live on Saturday, but I'm going to try my best to be there. I have another month of stuff I'm working through. So after that, I'll definitely be consistent again, but it's touch and go from here or there. So I will do definitely a pop-up. I'll let you guys know in the community page if I'm going live that day. Obviously, or if you don't hear from me, I usually go live at 12 doing my time. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, I cannot wait. And yeah, everybody's saying thank you. They loved it so much. I loved it too. I will be there this weekend. I hope to see you guys over at Foxy's, and then next week we'll be back over here sometime. We'll post it before. But
thanks so much for having me. I look forward to the series. It's going to be a really great conversation.
I know. I love it. It went so fast, and I had a million more things I could have said, but I know we better wrap it up. So, yeah,
I got to
thank
work
you
on my
so.
timing too because I talk way too much.
No, I think you do great, and your energy. You're
Oh,
just a pleasure to be around and speak to. So, I
thank
appreciate you
you.
coming so much. And all right, you guys. Well, I will let you all go, and thank you for being here. And I'll talk to you soon. Don't forget, go subscribe to Foxy. Bye.
Bye.